McCarthy, as author of the question, has the floor for 5 minutes. Mrs. McCarthy.
Thank you.
Köszönöm szépen. Elnök úr, ennek a szóbeli kérdésnek az a lényege, hogy valahogy megpróbáljuk több ezer kis és középvállalat számára valamiféle elégtételt tudjunk adni, akik akár több milliónyit vesztenek évente, mert ezek a család üzletek, amelyek már több mint 40 éve
is without doubt a scam that requires a European response. As an example, the structure of the MyWolf holding company, which owns the European City Guide and other such companies, is a complex web of European scam companies registered, operating and domiciled in several member states of the EU and the EEA countries Switzerland and Liechtenstein. Despite legal action and fines issued by courts in several member states, it continues to operate, making a mockery of EU cooperation on law enforcement. Indeed, it took 7 years through the courts for the company to be shut down in Barcelona, only to immediately restart trading in Valencia. MyWolf Holding is the hub of a web of companies operating scams not just at EU level but at global level and continuing, I am afraid, to escape the long arm of the law. By responding to the European City Guide, businesses were led to believe they were simply responding to an information request on updating or correcting their data. They were led to believe it was a free service, and then they suddenly found themselves slapped with an invoice for thousands of euros which, if mentioned at all, only appeared in very fine print in a confusing and misleading manner. The same MyWolf holding company apparently also owns the debt collection companies, which then proceed to harass, bully and threaten businesses to pay up. A website, Stop the European City Guide, that campaigns against the City Guide fraud was also subject to legal threats, and their ISP then had to shut them down, although they are currently up and running again, I am pleased to say. Many of the activities of this fraudulent company are clearly in breach of the Misleading Advertising Directive of 1984. We need better and more enforced coordinated enforcement to close the loopholes or gaps that are exploited by such companies. I can inform the Presidency that my committee will review the implementation and transposition of the Misleading Advertising Directive and, of course, a new Unfair Commercial Practices Directive. We are particularly interested in the example of Austria's transposition of the Misleading Advertising Directive, whereby businesses cannot be bound by a contract unless they have clearly and explicitly signed up to its terms and conditions. This is a model, Presidency, that I hope you will follow in discussions with the other Member States. Small businesses, of course, are not helped by the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive, as it does not cover business-to-business transactions, even for small businesses. Member States, I think, must make better use of the cross-border enforcement network to put these cowboy businesses once and for all out of business and out of operation. I certainly share with my colleagues here the sense of frustration of many of the small businesses who for years, not months, who for years have continued to suffer harassment and financial loss. And if we believe, as we say we do, that small businesses are the backbone of the EU economy, then it is time to stand up for them, defend their rights and defend them against these fraudulent practices. I certainly welcome Commissioner Kuneva's interest and her commitment to monitoring their activities, but monitoring does not get results and does not actively target these companies. It is unacceptable, I believe, that the business complaints have fallen on apparently deaf ears and that the sole trader behind the City Guide has been allowed to continue to peddle his fraudulent practice without facing the full force of the European law. So I am calling today on the Member States to urgently take action, to recognise the serious and damaging consequences of allowing this fraudster to continue to rip off our businesses. I want the Member States therefore today, and indeed the Presidency, to commit to taking action during our debate, not just debating the issues that we have known for many years. So I urge the Presidency to answer these questions and to work together with us